Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is our final open spoiler discussion for the Disney Plus series, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I hope you guys are doing great today. I know I stayed up last night until 2 in the morning, or about 1 in the morning. It came on at midnight my time, stayed up till 1. Watched the damn thing, had to go to the dentist this morning because of an unexpected problem with my last remaining wisdom tooth, but whatever. We are here now. And how are you guys doing? And what a finale it was. I thoroughly enjoyed the finale. They did so many little things that I thought were absolutely great. And one of the things that I love about it is the fact that they did something I did not want them to do, which was make Sam the new Captain America. Because you guys know me if you've been watching me. I don't think anybody else should be Captain America. I don't think Bucky should be Captain America. I certainly don't think John Walker should be Captain America. I don't think anybody should be Captain America. But what they did was, in doing something I didn't really want them to do, and I still kind of wish they didn't, the show did a great job letting me understand why he becomes Captain America. Like, I still disagree, but you can disagree and understand, right? And they laid out their case for why it was important for Sam to take on that moniker. And so while it's still not the decision I would have made, by the end of the episode, I was like, I get it. I get it. And they did it very well. They executed it very well. The last little speech he gives about, I'm a black man with the stars and stripes. What don't I understand? I mean, it was powerful stuff. It was really powerful stuff. I love the fact, because, in a lot of these comic book things, whatever, when somebody decides to become something else, suddenly they're twice as powerful. And I love the fact that Sam still couldn't take Batroc. I mean, that's a little thing, but I think that is really good storytelling. Like, look, he couldn't take Batroc before. Just because he calls himself Captain America now doesn't magically mean he can take out Batroc. And I really like the fact that they stayed consistent with that. I love the fact that he is a character who has said, I can't win every fight, but he understands what he can do, and that's how he makes his difference. And I was really taken with it. I love that, Bucky did everything that he did. The John Walker thing, I thought he would die heroically, but instead they gave him straight up redemption. And what I tell you about Sharon Carter, I said all of the power broker theories are bad theories, but what did I say? I said the Sharon Carter is the broker is the least bad of the bad theories. It's still a bad theory, but it's the least bad of the bad theory. So I kind of thought they would just go nobody. I thought they would just go nobody because all the other theories were bad. But out of all the bad theories, the Sharon Carter was the one. So my number one question going into the finale was, what is the deal with Sharon Carter? What's going on there? Oh, guys, when she melted that dude, when she straight up melted that dude in the armored truck, he smells like, okay, yeah, she's on a whole new level now. She's a whole new level. And remember, we said, look, the thing about Sharon Carter is, and you guys remember we talked about this, how many supervillain stories start with what they perceive to be a great betrayal? Betrayed by their best friend, betrayed by their love, betrayed by their family, betrayed by their country. That is the classic trope for the origins of a supervillain, and that's the one they kind of gave us here with Sharon Carter. And so I thought that was interesting. The whole Carly thing I thought was great. They gave us villains who proposed a main philosophical problem that made the heroes and the audience forced to look at deeper questions, the ideologies of it all. And that was the power thing. I mean, Carly Morgenthau isn't going to go down as like the next Loki or Thanos, but one of the great things that she and the Flag Smashers proposed was they gave us an antagonist that we had to also wrestle with their ideology and understand that we see where they're coming from. I mean, and that was, of course, highlighted in the final speech by Sam. The whole Bucky thing, I got exactly what I wanted with Bucky and Yori. I love one of the great things about this finale was they didn't take any of the easy way outs. They could have done the stereotypical easy thing. Well, this time that Sam fights Batroc, this time he's going to show Batroc who's boss. And they didn't do that. They could have done with Bucky and Yori. Bucky says, I'm the one who killed your son. And Yori gives him a big hug and says, thank you for telling me I forgive you. But they didn't do that. Remember, I was talking about that yesterday, that I didn't want to see that happen. And they didn't do that. They didn't give it the easy way out. And I really, really respect that. I really respect. Now, I'm seeing a bunch of guys write in the chat. Yes, the news came out before we started the show that they are going to be doing a Captain America 4. That has nothing to do with today's show, unfortunately. We will talk about that on Monday. It's going to be written by the same guy who wrote the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series. So we'll talk about that on Monday on the John Campea Show. But I mean, this is incredible. I thought it was a really great finale, and I enjoyed it a lot. So here's what we're going to do, guys. We are going to take the rest of the show, and we've got till 4 o'clock. Now, sometimes we can go longer than 2 hours, but I'm going to let you in on a secret. I've got tickets to go see Mortal Kombat. So Ann and I have tickets at an AMC dine-in theater, and we're going to go watch some Mortal Kombat. So I got to do that today. But we do have till 4 o'clock right now. So let's spend the rest of our time taking your guys' thoughts, observations, your overall reactions to what we just saw in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the season finale. All right, let's jump over and start getting to it, shall we? We're going to start off here with Taki75, who writes, the Isaiah Bradley storyline was great. Flag Smashers Carly were the worst villains since Malekith Yellow Jacket. Overall good, but not great like Wilson. See, I'm going to completely agree with you about the Carly and the Flag Smashers, because they brought to the table something that made us as audiences wrestle. Because a lot of the motivations, like Sam says it best at the end, like you got to ask why. And that's something Malekith never did. We as an audience never kind of saw things or could empathize or understand with what Malekith's motivations were. None of us could relate with or empathize with what the motivations of Yellow Jacket were, right? But with Carly and the Flag Smashers, the core central idea about struggling with existing ideologies, that's kind of core to the show. And so that's why, for me, they really, really worked. Anyway, I thought it was great. All right, next up. Steel Smith writes, man, that Isaiah in the museum with sand scene really hit me. It was beautifully done. We talked about it on yesterday's pregame. Somebody brought up the idea of that. I wholeheartedly bought into it. It was wonderful. Overall, just great ending to a great show. Sharon being the power broker, U.S. agent, etc. Yeah, I mean, it was dynamite. It was dynamite. That ending with him. You know what the great thing is? In doing this ending, they show that none of the characters have all the answers. Like, right? Because even before with Isaiah, say America will never accept a Captain America and no self-respecting black man would ever want to be Captain America. And Sam kind of stepped up to show all the pre-existing biases and all the pre-existing ideologies, even Isaiah's, have to be challenged. And Sam was a living challenge to Isaiah's ideology at that point. And I thought that was powerful. And anyway, that last scene with Isaiah in the museum, I thought that was pretty fantastic. I thought that was pretty fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it, and I thought they executed it very well. All right, next up, Gabe Campbell writes, well, I called it yesterday. John Walker helped take down the Flag Smashers. Great episode. Yeah, I think a lot of people did. I think a lot of people, like, I thought he would help take down the Flag Smashers by dying heroically, but instead they gave John Walker a come to Jesus moment, right? Where he was faced with the decision, I can either save the people in the truck or I can go and get my revenge and chase down Carly. And he wrestles with it. He shakes his head and he understands, no, I'm supposed to be a hero. And he goes and gets the truck. And he saves everybody on the truck. I mean, then obviously all the other Flag Smashers come and start hitting on him, so it starts to fall again. But if he hadn't caught that truck, those people would have been dead. And I really like the way they kind of executed that. All right, next up. Taki75 writes, that scene where Sam was descending from the sky with open wings and holding Carly's dead body looked like a Renaissance painting. It kind of did. And I think there was something... I think that was intentional to a degree. I think that was probably very intentional to a degree. By the way, can I just throw in here again that all the visuals looked fantastic. I thought the visuals looked fantastic. And it harkens back to episode 1 when we saw Sam in the big aerial combat. seeing Sam doing all the aerial combat stuff, it looked pretty awesome. And the suit looked pretty damn great while he was doing it. The costume itself looked pretty damn great while he was doing it. All right. Let's see here. Murray Reich writes, I like the new suit, like Steve's, but more of a mix. The way it ended with Captain America and the Winter Soldier, does that mean season 2? I think so. I think so because they had to keep it a secret due to the title. Well, of course, now we also know they're going to do a Captain America 4. But remember, the big tip that they're going to probably do a Falcon and Winter Soldier or a Captain America and White Wolf season 2 is because Marvel submitted the show not in the best limited series category for the Emmys, which means it's just a one season done like WandaVision, but instead they submitted it for best drama, which suggests they're going to be going for more seasons. So I think that's probably a given at this point. All right. Let's see here. Where are we at? We are at Al Rensha writes, hey John, after everything he's been through, it was emotional to say the least when Sam brought Isaiah to the museum. What did you think of the scene? The scene was great. The only thing that would have been better, the only thing that would have made it better is if old man Steve Rogers was there too. That's the only way that scene would have been better. I really would have loved to have seen Steve, but I mean, the reality was Chris Evans, I mean, they're denying it, but we know it's true. Chris Evans signed a new deal to appear in 1 to 2 new movies, and that deal was struck after Falcon and the Winter Soldier was already shot. So I knew it was a small % chance. I gave old man Cap showing up at 25%, which meant 75% he probably wouldn't, and he didn't. But that's the only thing. I think would have made that scene even better. All right. Next up, we got Juno Faulkner, who writes, 1 of 2, love the episode, so did I. The Flag Smashers have always been the weakest part of this series to me, and episode 6 was no different. I was hoping Bucky's confession was more drawn out. I didn't, we talked about that on the show yesterday. I didn't need it to be drawn out. I couldn't have cared less if it was just 10 seconds. That wasn't the important part. Just drawing out emotionalism when it wasn't needed to be drawn out like that. The important thing was Bucky coming clean. We didn't need to see Yori suffer more. We didn't need to see Yori give him a big hug. We didn't need to see that. None of that was the important stuff to me. Remember, we talked about this yesterday. I said just 5 to 10 seconds. We just need to see Bucky confronting that demon of his and addressing it head on, and we saw it. And to me, that was every bit as fulfilling as I was hoping it would be. Then Juno Faulkner writes, a reaction from Yori, instead of scene just kind of ended. That's exactly how it should have ended, in my opinion. Again, I explained that. Yes, I said this is how this scene should end. But then when Sam showed Isaiah his statue at the Smithsonian, I teared up, so I got my emotional fix there. Well, good on you. And listen, again, to me, the Flag Smashers, have they been great traditional comic book movie antagonists in the series? No. But by the end of the final episode, you realize the Flag Smashers were exactly what this series needed them to be, right? Again, you can throw out names like Malekith and other things like that, but the reality is those types of villains never gave us the type of philosophical issues and ideology battles that the Flag Smashers did. Because if the Flag Smashers weren't that, really everything Sam does at the end wouldn't have had meaning. Hell, if it wasn't for the Flag Smashers being the villains, even the Isaiah ending at the end, kind of marinating in this whole idea of changing ideologies, it wouldn't have had as much meaning. So for me, I actually think the Flag Smashers, while not Loki or Thanos are amongst my favorite villains in the MCU, they served their role perfectly to me. So that's why I thought they really worked. But that's just me. All right. Next up, we've got ZX0 writes, overall, I think WandaVision was better, but I still really enjoyed this series. Seems like everyone's getting a costume update in these shows. Well, I will say the same. I think if I had to pick one, which one did I prefer overall? I think I preferred WandaVision a little bit more overall. Like episodes 1, 2, and 3, I enjoyed a Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I didn't love until we got into episode 4, 5, and 6. Whereas WandaVision, I was right on board with that show right from episode 1. Right from episode 1, I was totally bought in on that show. But still, I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier was another big win. I think it worked really, really well for them. All right. And you know what? Can I just say one thing? You mentioned everybody's getting a costume upgrade. Can I say one thing? All right. And I know this is everybody's going to get their little underwear in a twist when I say this, but it's got to be said. As far as everybody getting a costume upgrade, I thought the costume looked great. I did. I thought that costume looked fantastic. I am, though, once again, I'm sorry, guys. It's just another Iron Man costume. It's just another Iron Man costume. Like, he's got to have the same, like now, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Falcon, they all have the same big heads-up displays that they can see through smoke at night. He can see footprints, and he's got the little extra booster rockets, just like Iron Man did in that one Spider-Man movie, that can go out and attach themselves to the truck and push it up too, and blah, blah. It's another Iron Man. It's just another Iron Man costume. And again, I love the costume. I do. I loved it. I thought it looked great. I thought the functionality of it as he's flying through the sky. But at the bottom line, it's like they once again were like, Falcon's not cool enough. Let's give him an Iron Man costume. You know what? Spider-Man, he's kind of cool, but he's not cool enough. You know what the kiddies love? The kiddies love Iron Man costumes. Let's give Spider-Man his own version of an Iron Man costume. But whatever. Still, at the end of the day, I thought it looked great. And when he would be standing there and the wigs would fold back in, it looked pretty awesome. I got to say, it looked pretty awesome. All right. Next up. And everybody thinks, oh, John, bad take. No, it's not. No, it's not. I know everybody wants to defend every little detail the MCU does. Sorry, it's the truth. Grit down on it and just swallow that acceptance. That sounded like it could have gone another direction. But anyway, I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with that, but it's true. It's another Iron Man costume. All right? He's got to have all the tech. He's got to have the heads-up display. It's all the machinery that does everything. But whatever, it still looked awesome and it functioned well in the thing. All right, next up. James Welsh writes, one of two. I don't understand why Sharon became a traitor. Yes, her country betrayed her, but so did Falcon's, and he never became a murderer. Yeah, but that's the thing, James. I mean, and where's 2 of 2 for James? Well, I can't look all over the place. Guys, if you're going to send in parts 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 3, have them ready to go. Like, type them out in a notepad doc first so you can just quickly get them in there so I don't have to go hunting around. At any rate, but here's the thing that, yeah, okay, so it didn't with Bucky, but that's the truth. Most of the great supervillains come out of a place of betrayal where they feel like, whether they're right or they're wrong, and it's their perception, when they feel like they're betrayed by their best friend, when they feel like they've been betrayed by their family or betrayed by their country. Yes, others have got it too, and they don't have that reaction, but many good characters have, and they have had that reaction. So it is a standard, not just superhero trope, it's a standard trope in a lot of fiction, where the villain became a villain over a sense of betrayal. And it's pretty standard stuff. It's pretty standard stuff. All right, next up. Where are we at here? We are at Dave's Not Here Right. So, is One World the new Hydra because they seem to have adopted Hydra's little over-the-shoulder name whisper? But let's not pretend like that's a Hydra thing. That's a thing that's been around a long time in the real world too. Right? Where like secret societies have their own little ways of identifying themselves. So let's not pretend that Hydra was the first one to do that. It's been done in the real world too. So it was just their little way of letting, like the guard at the end, letting the people in the truck know, we're going to get you out of here. And I thought it was important for us as the audience too, because it communicated to us as the audience, this really is a very, very big movement of people who really believe in it. Even one of those guards. By the way, can I just say, my favorite moment of the episode that I had my biggest reaction of is when the car or the truck carrying the Flag Smashers exploded and the camera pans to that pickup truck with the old man in it, and I freaked out. I'm like, it's Alfred! It's Zemo's Alfred! I freaked out. I loved that ending. I love that Zemo won. Zemo won. I just freaked out when I realized the old man was Alfred, was Zemo's personal outfit. I thought that was a great moment. Loved it. It was incredible. All right. Next up. Where are we at here? We are at Bert, who writes, Carly gave me Killmonger vibes as far as Marvel villains, i.e., taking the violent route to achieve humanitarian goals. What is your opinion on this? Killmonger wasn't about taking the violent route. See, that's a fundamental misinterpretation and misrepresentation of Killmonger. Killmonger was not just, I'm willing to do the violent things to achieve humanitarian goals. Killmonger wasn't about that. That was part of his manifesto. Killmonger was just a psychotic killer. Like, he was about killing for the sake of killing, and he wanted global genocide. He wanted to go out, and he was about vengeance and anger and like just murdering people. Yes, there was, again, for him, there was a moment in his life where he perceived a great betrayal. The murder of his father was a great betrayal, right? And that set him down a certain path. But Killmonger was always more than just, all I want is some good things for the world. Like, he needlessly, intentionally, and even in that one part talking about, we're going to kill all those people and then we'll kill all their children. And like, but I feel like there's a lot of movie fans who romanticize what Killmonger was. Go back and watch Black Panther again. I mean, Killmonger's an incredible character, like an absolutely amazing character, and the way that Michael B. Jordan played him. But I feel like in the years that have passed since Black Panther came out, a lot of people don't remember that character very well, and they romanticize Killmonger when he was really a monster. He was a monster, and who had been wronged and had suffered injustices, absolutely, but he was a monster. And he used those issues as a way to excuse or explain his character. But anyway, that was a terrific, terrific, terrific character, though. But yeah, when you have a character like Killmonger, who is like, he's just murdering people left and right, who no purpose in murdering them. And then when he's actually trying to carry out genocide at the end of the movie, and telling people we're going to wipe out everybody who stands in their way, we're going to kill all their children, we're going to wipe everybody out. I mean, it's just, people have over-romanticized the character of Killmonger. And that doesn't take away how great of a character he is. He's what made Black Panther really work. But again, people romanticize what it was he was about. He was about lots of murder. Anyway, next up, we've got, we did June already. Murray Reich writes, I thought Captain America was on the moon. Interesting the Guard didn't know about Walmart Captain America, especially with what happened in Europe. Seems like news is slow in New York City. Yeah, it was a funny line, but I thought that too. It's like, he does know that there was a new Captain America named, and now there's like another new Captain America, right? You're right, Murray. That did stand out to me as being a little bit odd. Okay, next up, James Argento writes, my Disney Plus 100 million plus budget season ranking one. Okay, my Disney Plus 100 million budget plus season ranking. Number 1, Mandalorian season 2. Number 2, WandaVision. Number 3, Mandalorian season 1. Number 4, Falcon and Winter Soldier. 49 days to Loki. Do you think Sharon will be more a villain on Disney Plus or film? Well, I mean, the post-credit scene clearly set it up that we're not done with Sharon. Like, Sharon's got her own plan, and we found out through Carly, of course, that she's trying to take over the world. She's about empire building. She wants to build her empire. And they clearly showed us with that post-credit scene that there's going to be more of her to come, when I'm sure she was talking to the same lady who was her driver earlier in the series. And she says, contact our buyers. We're going to have lots of good stuff to sell. I mean, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where they go with that. All right, next up, James Welsh. This is James Welsh's 2 of 2 from earlier. Where are we? You think she was in love with Steve and pissed he chose Peggy over her? No, I don't think so. She felt betrayed by him and not the government because he broke her heart. Nah, that was they had no relationship. I mean, that was minor. It would have to be the betrayal of her country that she served most of her life with sacrifice and all that kind of stuff. a guy she crushed on had one kiss with. No. That's not turning her from hero to villain. The betrayal of her government that she has fought for, sacrificed for, given most of her life to the service of, that betrayal, to me, that's the betrayal that probably pushed her over the edge. Not, oh, there's a guy I kissed once and, oh, well, now he's gone. I don't think that was that big of a deal. All right. Next up, we've got Juno, who writes, compared to the WandaVision finale, I think this one stuck the landing more. See, I'm in the minority on this in that I thought the WandaVision ending was pretty much perfect. I mean, and I know there are a lot of people who were very upset because whatever their theories didn't work out, and for other people it just didn't work, and that's fine. For me, I actually thought the finale to WandaVision was pretty much hit every note that it needed to hit. It gave us the action beats we wanted. It gave us a lot of character fleshing out fulfillment. We got the White Vision thing happen. You know, Wanda actually embracing her destiny to become the Scarlet Witch. I thought it worked out quite well. But I did think this series finale was great. The season finale for Falcon and Winter Soldier, I thought was totally bang on. I enjoyed it a great deal. All right, next up. Onrog writes, cool to hear Bucky be called Sergeant Barnes. Well, I mean, that's his literal name. He is Sergeant, Bucky Barnes. That's his literally, we've heard him, but it was kind of cool seeing him show up and like the law enforcement guys know who he is, like Sergeant Barnes, instead of, I like that. That was a pretty cool thing there. Ryan Lohner writes, Carly says a black man doesn't matter. I see what you did there. No, that's a reach. That's a reach. She was saying anybody who wasn't important to my cause. That's just it. I don't believe there was anything racial there intended at all. Evelyn writes, one little moment on screen and Zemo still wins, right? He just had that brief little moment, but I'm telling you, when Zemo's Alfred shows up, I like just about cheered out loud. I really liked that moment. All right. Everything Nerd writes, great episode. From what I can tell, it's getting a mixed reaction. 5 out of 10 and such. I don't give a shit what anybody else thinks. I thought it was great. Not for me. Costume was great. Love the show. Bring on Loki. In my opinion, it's an 8 out of 10. I would go, I mean, I don't give numerical scores to things, but I think I would be in that neighborhood. Like I said, if episodes 1, 2, and 3 were a little bit stronger to me, I might go a little bit higher, but I'm not going to say I gave it an 8 out of 10 because, like I said, I don't give numerical scores to things, but I think my would probably be in that neighborhood. Somewhere between the 7 to 8.5 range, somewhere in there. That's probably where I would come around to. All right, Onrog writes, Wanda and Sam's new outfits reveals have been great. They have been. The outfit reveals have been great, and not only have the reveals been great, they look awesome. I mean, Scarlet Witch's looks a little better, but Sam and Scarlet Witch's costumes both look incredible. The design is amazing. All right, Tyler Yeats writes, man, I love this show. When Sam threw the shield and flew after it, that was insane. Love the end with Bucky and Sam. Really loving these characters. Yeah, I mean, and to me, like, I heard from a bunch of people saying, oh, they didn't like the boat scene. I'm like, I don't... The boat scene was the most important scene. The boat fixing montage sequence was the most important sequence in this entire series of actually showing and developing the chemistry and camaraderie between Sam and Bucky. Nothing else in this show came nearly as close to being as pivotal important as showing their development of their relationship, their chemistry, their friendship, their camaraderie. Nothing else in this show built that like that boat montage. It wasn't just some, time filler. No. It was doing vital narrative work. And that's why I love that scene. I thought that scene was great. Let's see. Okay, look, for people, guys, do not spam in the live chat, please. Like, you're not being cute and clever by just copying, pasting your own thing over and over again. Please do not do that. To anybody who's saying, yes, we already addressed at the top of the show, we already addressed that we already saw the report of Captain America, Captain America 4. We've already addressed it. That's something that we'll talk about on Monday. We're not here to talk about that on this particular video. I appreciate you bringing it up. But yes, please stop spamming. You're not actually doing anybody any favors except annoying people. So please don't do that. And we already, especially when it's something we already addressed at the beginning of the show. So yes, and that will be very exciting to talk about on Monday. But for now, we're here to talk about, Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 6. Okay, let's move on. Next up, where are we at here? Was that Tyler? Yes, that was Tyler. Next up, The Wakandan Forever writes, I teared up. Museum scene got me. Seeing the 3 generations, Isaiah, Sam, and Eli, as a black man in America, seeing them on that show meant a lot. Listen, when somebody brought it up on the pregame show, it was on the pregame show yesterday that somebody brought up this idea of what if it ends with like Isaiah getting his own monument spot in the Captain America Museum, and we were like all on board with that. I'm like, yes, that's got to happen. And again, the only thing I think that would have made it a little bit even better is if, old man Steve came walking up behind and put his hand on his shoulder and say, well deserved, or something like that. But it was beautiful and great the way it was. All right, next up. Hero75 writes, I wonder if Sharon Carter, Power Broker, will make her next appearance in Armor Wars. That's exactly what I thought. Anyway, sold/stolen government tech would fit into that show. Remember, they've already said that this War Machine show, Iron Wars, they've already said that the kind of synopsis of it is what happens when all that technology starts getting in the wrong hands. Sharon Carter, as the power broker, just basically laid out that her whole thing now is about stealing technology and selling it off to the highest bidder. That sounds like it fits pretty damn perfectly well with what the Iron War synopsis is. So I think you're 100% right. I do think that's where we're going to see Sharon next. We might even see her before that. We might even see her before that. So we'll see. Okay. Let's see. Where are we at? We are at, that was Hero. Next up, we got Derek Lugo, who writes, and tips in like $25. Thank you, Derek, man. I appreciate that, dude. Love the finale overall. Had gripes with Sharon over the power broker stuff. I love how the show was not afraid to tackle larger issues concerning race, history, and politics. Also love seeing Walker get his hero moment. Yeah, again, I think there's a lot of things they could have done with Walker at the end. Like, they could have had him fighting against Bucky and Sam. He could have gone right over the edge and fought against Bucky and Sam. He could have had what I thought they were going to do, have him have a come to Jesus moment, and he dies heroically helping Bucky and Sam. But they decided to go full on redemption mode, right? Now, the thing that worries me, but excites me also as an audience member is, in that moment when Walker had to decide, do I save the truck or do I go get my revenge by killing Carly? He chose to be a hero. That doesn't mean his still underlying issues aren't there. And I think that's going to become an issue moving forward. Like it highlighted he truly does want to be a hero. He wants to do the good thing. He wants to help people. But I think what this show has given us is the fact that he still has those underlying issues that were not addressed and not dealt with, right? We see Bucky dealing with his issues. We see Bucky having to go make amends, go see Yori, face his demons. All we're seeing John Walker do, to his credit, is trying to get back to who he feels he wants to be and being a hero, but we don't see him trying to address his problems. He's not trying to address his issues, and I think that makes him a fascinating character moving forward because I think he's going to run into the same problems that he has in this series. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with that. I think it's going to be really cool to see where they can go with a character like this. Okay. Where are we at now? We're at Evelyn, who writes, my problem, the same with WandaVision, is that they build so much and that doesn't allowed to breathe the episodes. Let me try this again. My problem, the same with WandaVision, is that they build so much and that doesn't allowed to breathe the episodes. That so much happens so fast. That is something, yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. Because these series are so short, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that isn't given any time to breathe. Right. And that was also, if you guys remember, that was one of my criticisms of WandaVision, was that there is so much stuff happening, but very, very little of it is being given chances to marinate and to breathe. And I think, going slow does not mean you have bad pace. You can have good pace and credence. You can have fast pace. You can have a nice slow burn pace. You can have pace and still slow things down. And yeah, it feels like I hope moving forward that they do start to give these things, like they don't have to fit in 20 major points in every single episode. Let's really marinate in those things. Like one of the things they did well with that was the boat fixing montage, right? That whole thing was allowed to breathe. They allowed that thing more than 20 seconds. They let that stuff play out. It did what its narrative was needed to do, building the camaraderie between the characters, giving them a reprieve from all the action and heartache and bloodshed that had been going on. It had been done really nicely. And I hope that we see more shows when we get into Loki and when we get into She-Hulk and whatever, or Hawkeye. I hope we get to a point fairly quickly that they start to let scenes like that breathe a little bit. So it doesn't have to be so fast, but anyway, it's still great. It's still great. I loved it. All right, next up, Hank Jones writes, only problem I have, the suit is too big. Oh, you know what? Okay, Hank, I'll say this. I thought that too at first. It looked a little too big for him. But when you stop to think about, look at all the technology that suit is carrying, including these massive metal vibranium wings, right? When you look at all the technology that's supposed to be packed into that suit, because yeah, at first I thought, okay, it looks amazing. Looks a little too big for his body. But then when I stopped, thought, you know what? All the tech packed into that thing, I think it's probably good that they made it a little bit of a larger suit. So overall, listen, I have my overall criticism of the MCU that they're trying to turn every character into Iron Man. That aside, the suit looked awesome. It looked fabulous in its aerial combat. That whole thing when he's coming down holding Carly's body, it's just an iconic looking suit. It just looks really damn good. And I accepted the size of it, but I totally see where you're coming from on that, Hank. All right, next up. Wakanda Forever writes, I finally get it. Steve Rogers transcends Captain America. Kind of. Now seeing Isaiah, Sam, Bucky, and Walker. In Wakandan terms, King T'Challa is my mind, body, and soul, but the Black Panther mantle changes. Yeah, again, I don't like the idea that the Captain America mantle changes. I think Steve Rogers is Captain America, Steve Rogers is Captain America. But again, just because that's what I wanted them to do, we always knew they would make... I mean, we knew from the beginning of the show that Sam was going to end up being called Captain America. But even though they didn't end up doing what I wanted them to do, they did something different, and they made me understand why they did it different. I still wish they had done something else, but they made me understand well about why Sam would make that choice. Narratively, they set it up very, very well. And it's like I said after episode 5, I said, or might have 4 or 5, I can't remember. You guys might remember which episode I said this at. I said, you know, I still don't want him to call himself Captain America. I don't want anybody else to call themselves Captain America. But with this episode, I said, I think they've made it so I can live with it because I get what they were doing. And that's what good narrative work does. It's good narrative work makes you as an audience member go, when they don't do what you wanted them to do, you still go, okay, that still worked. It's not what I wanted them to do, but it still worked, and I appreciate what they did with it. And Sam ending up calling himself Captain America at the end, it worked narratively for what they were doing. And they made it make sense, and they made it have meaning. That's the key thing. Him taking on the mantle of Captain America gave meaning. Or how they went about him taking on the mantle gave meaning to him having the mantle. And that's why we should never go into shows like demanding that they do what we want them to do, or else we're robbing ourselves. They didn't do what I wanted them to do, but I was still able to really enjoy it because they did good narrative work. Anyway, next up, we've got the Wakanda Forever also writes, breaking news, Steve Trevor takes super serum. I know I always say Steve Trevor when I'm trying to say Steve Rogers. All right. Santez Henderson writes, Sam isn't Steve, but him taking on the mantle speaks to today's problems, and he gives a voice to those issues. He is worthy of the title and shield. Well, listen, again, I still don't think he should be called Captain America, but in that final, well, not the final scene, but in that like big sequence at the end, when he's talking to the senators and the members of the GRC and all that kind of stuff, one of the things this show did really, really well, I mean, exceedingly well, was that they were building up Sam to be Captain America, but they were not building up Sam to become Steve. Let me say that again, because I think this is key. They used this show to build up Sam as Captain America, not to make him Steve. Because you guys remember early on I said, oh, I really hope he doesn't take the super soldier serum, because that's just trying to turn him into Steve, right? If he's going to become Captain America, make it his version of Captain America. And so I thought they did really good work by, number one, not having him take the super soldier serum. Remember, I was thrilled at that. It's like, yes, they're keeping Sam as his own character. Whether he takes on the Captain America mantle or not, they're making him take on his own character. And then in that, for the first episode that we saw him trying to negotiate with Carly, trying to counsel her, trying to talk to her, we said, yes, this is Sam exercising what his gift is. He's taking those things that are uniquely great to him, and they're showing him using those gifts in this show to achieve things. And then we see it again in the finale with him talking to the senators. Like, Sam has a gift, maybe more than Steve did, of being able to basically communicate to people and make them see things from other perspectives. And what I love about this, and ultimately how it wound up, was that they made Sam Captain America without making Sam Steve. And I think it would have been really easy for them to go the lazy route and say, okay, let's say somehow the guys who trained Steve how to become a combat artist comes back and trains Sam. I don't know how they would have done that. And then let Sam get the last vial of super soldier serum. They could have taken the easy way out to turn Sam into Steve and then call him Captain America. What they did was they made Sam Captain America, still completely being Sam. And I think a lot of people are going to overlook that. But personally, to me, that is one of the most pivotal things to me that makes this character interesting and makes me look forward to seeing what he does next, even with the mantle of Captain America. So that's why I like his character so much. Okay, anyway, let's move on now. Orange Hand writes, I wish we'd seen more of Zemo's mask. Oh, I don't care. I mean, it's just a piece of clothing. It doesn't actually make anything better or worse. I mean, yeah, it was pretty cool when he put it on that one time. We're like, woo, but did that make the scene better? I mean, I was fine with it. I was personally fine with not seeing the mask. Preston Bell sends in like a $20 super chat. Thank you, Preston. Wow. For one thing, I didn't even know this was the finale, so that kind of added to the enjoyment. Loved Falcon's soliloquy to the senator and authorities. It was brilliant. Again, it was so uniquely Sam. Like, Steve Rogers is my all-time favorite MCU character. He's my all-time favorite MCU character. Steve Rogers couldn't have done what Falcon did at the end. Steve wasn't as good of a communicator as Sam was. And they really let Sam lean into what was great with him, and I loved that. Anyway, love Falcon's soliloquy to the senators and authorities. I'm a black man wearing the stars and stripes. This show was definitely self-aware. It definitely was. And it was great. And again, one of the things that I loved about it, it was saying that all the pre-existing ideologies shouldn't just be taken at face value, even Isaiah's ideology. When Isaiah says to Sam, this country will never accept a black man as Captain America, and no self-respecting black man would ever want to be called Captain America. And Sam rejects all of the pre-existing ideologies. The world's, the government's, even Isaiah's. And he says, no, there's something different. I love what he says to Carly. She goes, you really bought into all this bullshit? And Sam said, I think a phrase that will be overlooked very easy because he says it really quick. But what does Sam say to Carly when she says, you of all people are buying into this bullshit? What does he say? He said, I thought I'd try something different. You should too. I think there is a lot of meaning in that simple little line. I decided to try something different or something new. You should too. A different perspective, a new ideology, a different way of looking at things. And that's what Sam represented and what he was trying to communicate to Carly. And I thought that was all great. Okay. Next up. Thanks for that, Preston. John Salvi writes, did you notice before the credits scene, it said Captain America and Winter Soldier? I did not. I did not notice that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I didn't notice. I'll have to go back and take a look at that again. Thanks, John. I appreciate that, man. All right, next up. Wakandan Forever writes, the suit and shield are nice, but give me Red Wing. I would have paid to see that in theaters. P.S. I'm always here when you need the Wakandan perspective. Now go get him, Sam, or should I say Cap? I mean, I could have done without Red Wing. Again, it just kind of becomes an extent is his own personal Jarvis extension, but whatever, it worked great. I thought, again, how great was the aerial battle sequence in episode 1 and the aerial battle sequence in this final episode. It looked money. It looked so good. I was very, very impressed with them. That could have gone sideways really fast. Let's see here. Next up, Casey McNabb writes, 1 of 2. In the end, it looks like Zemo actually got the chance to finish off the Flag Smashers. You saw his butler pretty much blow them up. Also, Val also noticed Val referenced Zemo as a friend. Well, where she goes, our friend Zemo. Don't take that literally. And as far as Sharon goes, I still don't know what her end goal is. Does this lead to another season? All right, I can't spend all my time hunting down the other parts. Sorry about that. The next one. Does this mean it lead to another season, Falcon Winter Soldier, or does this tie into another series like Armor Wars or Secret Invasion? I think to me, could be wrong, but it seems pretty clear it leads into Armor Wars. Again, when we hear what the synopsis of Armor Wars in, like what happens when all this technology falls into the wrong hands, and we hear Carly explain, like, you want to dominate the world and build your empire and stuff like this. And then we hear Sharon at the end saying, yep, we don't have super soldiers, but we're going to have access to all this technology now. To me, it seems a pretty clear fit that this is going to lead into Armor Wars and Sharon is going to become Rhodey's problem. At least that's what I think. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll go from there. All right. Next up, Sylvain Rondeau writes, Sharon had the doppelganger mask. She may have killed the original power broker and assumed his identity using his resources to get revenge. Well, listen, to me, she has to have taken on, it has to be a Dread Pirate Robert situation, because the way Zemo talked about it, the power broker has been the player in Madripoor for a significant amount of time, right? Preceding when the events of Civil War, right? So at some point, there must have been, again, I can't back this up. This is just how I'm interpreting it. At some point, there was a power broker and Sharon took that over. And now she is the power broker. At least that's what makes sense to me. I could be wrong about that, but we'll see where they go with that. All right, next up. We go to Hero 75. Is that where we're at? Yes. Hero 75. And Hero 75 writes, not sure if you saw, but Disney put Falcon and the Winter Soldier up in the drama series for the Emmys this year. I think we may get a season 2. Again, Hero 75, that was one of our main topics on the last John Campea show that we did. We talked in depth about this. And yes, I completely agree that there is a reason WandaVision was put in the limited series category, because it was a one and done. And a reason why they put Falcon and Winter Soldier in the drama series, because I do believe there's going to be a second season. They haven't confirmed that, but I believe the writing's on the wall there. So I think you're right. All right. The Sock writes, why did Sam just refuse and try to talk her down again? I thought we were past that. I'm a very empathetic person, but that only goes so far because Sam sees the bigger picture. Sam sees and understands the bigger picture. Carly isn't the problem. Carly represents the problem. And it's what he said to the senator afterwards. It's like, you think just killing Carly? Well, guess what? If you don't start to change your perspective on things, you're going to see Carly 2.0. And if you get rid of that Carly, there's going to be a Carly 3.0. He understood that the first thing, this is one of the things I really appreciate about Sam's character. He understands the best way to stop conflict is to stop it before it starts. Get to the root of the problem. Yes, he could punch Carly out, although I don't know that he could have beat Carly in a fight. But Yes, he could try to punch Carly out, but that doesn't fix the problem. All that does now, she gets arrested, taken away, she becomes a martyr to the cause, and it just makes the problem worse. That's Sam's understanding. The best way to fix things is to get her to understand that. And that is why I love this character, why I have grown to love this character. Because he believes, let's look big picture. Yes, I can try to punch her in the face right now, but if I can talk her down, that will have a much bigger impact on things. Now, that's not the way it worked out. She was going to kill Sam, and then Sharon ended up killing her. But that is how Sam operates. He sees big picture. Not just what can we do to fix this problem right now? What happens in the next 3 steps if we don't do it right? So I really respect that Sam stayed true to his character in that moment, looked at the big picture, and understand we can get a lot more accomplished right now if I can talk her down. He wasn't able to. But it goes back to Sam's philosophy in that previous conversation when he says, remember when he says to his sister, I can't win every fight, and I understand that, and I accept that. But he's going to try. Maybe it was extremely unlikely that he was going to be able to talk Carly down. That's not going to stop Sam from trying. It's his version of, I can do this all day, and that's one of the things that I really liked about it. Anyway, next up, we go to the Sock also writes, also, why did he look mad at Sharon? I didn't think he looked mad at Sharon. Was she supposed to let him die? I know why she really killed him. You mean killed her. But he didn't know that. I don't know. Just kind of felt like Sam made a very poor decision in that moment. I don't know. I don't think he was mad at her. I just think he felt the tragedy of the moment. To him, that was a tragedy. Because remember, to him, the way to fix this problem better is to talk her down. Her dying, he knew was a problem. But I don't think he was mad at Sharon for saving his life. I think he was just hit with the tragedy of the moment. At least that's how I personally interpreted it. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong, but that's just how I interpreted that moment. All right, next up. We go to Epic Dub Time, who writes, now that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is done, it's pretty safe to say that Mephisto will pop up in Loki. Any editor over at We Got This covered in less than a week? Yeah, probably. Hey, man, listen, I was really impressed. I was personally very impressed by us in the fandom that we did not get too carried away with the wild speculations like we did in WandaVision. Like, yeah, you saw the odd thing that Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin is going to be the power broker. Yeah, we saw a couple of those. But for the most part, I was very proud of us as a fandom that we did not allow ourselves to get carried away with way over the top theorizing and all this kind of stuff. I was very proud of us. And let's see if we can carry that into Loki as well. All right, next up. Where are we at? We are at Jose Man, who writes, I think there will be a season 2. I absolutely think there will be. With them announcing Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I wouldn't doubt if it's called Captain America and the White Wolf. I wouldn't doubt that at all, because I think Bucky has been trying to put the Winter Soldier behind him. The Winter Soldier represents all the things he's trying to get rid of, right? So they could call it, Captain America and Winter Soldier. I think he's going to embrace White Wolf. I don't know that. I certainly don't know that. That's just kind of my guess. All right, Jose Man also writes, who was Sharon talking to at the end? I assume just the same woman who picked her up in the car that one time. I'm assuming that's like her right-hand person that she was talking to, because she was giving instructions, right? She goes, contact our buyers. Like, right? She was not collaborating with a partner. She was giving instructions. So my guess was it's just the same woman who picked her up in the car in that one episode that she gave instructions to. So that's my guess. Could be wrong, but that's my guess. All right. Next up, Casey McNatt writes, do you think if Sharon is working for someone, or is she just controlling the situation? I think she's controlling the situation. I don't think she's working for anybody. I don't think she's working for anyone. I think she's to hell with that. Yeah, I've worked for other people before, and look where that got me. I lost my country. I lost my family. I lost my home. Yeah. No. No more of that for Sharon Carter. She ain't working for nobody. At least I don't think she is. I think as the power broker, she's the top of the food chain in her little sphere. But I don't think she has an employer. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong, but my guess is she doesn't have an employer. Let me ask you guys in the live chat. Those of you who are watching in the live chat right now, just with a simple yes or no, do you think Sharon is working directly for somebody else? I say no. I don't think so. So just fire in yes or no. Like, yes, you think she's working for somebody else. No, we don't think she's working for somebody else. So we're seeing no, 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 maybe, no, 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 no. Couple of yeses. Yeah, most of you guys are saying no. I'm seeing the odd yes thrown in here or there. Yeah, mostly. So like I've got Marcus is saying yes. Then Jonathan, no. Bo, no. Alex, no. Rampage, no. Josh, no. Marcus, yes. Betsy, no. Yeah, so mostly it's no's. So, I mean, anything is possible in this MCU, right? We could find out she's working for the Mandarin, although I don't think that's the case. But I'm going to go with the majority of you guys too. I don't think she's working for anybody. I think she's had it with that. I think her experience makes it very unlikely that she would work for somebody else. But we will find out. We will find out. All right, next up. Epic Dub Time writes, very solid finale, John. Went nuts over the new Falcon suit. Loved the museum scene at the end with Isaiah. It was emotional and felt extremely earned. Listen, and not only was that scene at the museum, I thought that whole monologue of Sam's with the senator and all that kind of stuff, that was a scene that could have come across as really forced and really hokey. Like saying, you've got to step up, Senator. And I love the fact that he didn't have the answers. Like, what, again, it could have been so clean and easy if just the senator said, we need to do this, and Sam had the solution. Sam had the answer. No, Senator, what we need to do is take 50% of the people from here, move them here. No, Sam didn't have the answer. And he says that. Like, the senator says to him, you just don't get it. You don't know how complicated of a situation that is. And Sam just says, you're right. I don't. But we got to start acknowledging that it's a really complicated situation, and we got to start bringing in the people who are being affected by these decisions to help make these decisions. And we've got to do better. And I think that was great. They never took the easy way out. They didn't have Yori give Bucky a big hug at the end. They didn't have Sam have the answer. Sam didn't have the answer. They never took the easy way out in this show. And that is something I really appreciate a lot, because most comic book stuff, even Marvel stuff, will often take the easy route. And in this series, they simply did not. And I really, really appreciate that. All right. Next up. Who we got here? This is Lisa MP writes, hey, John, longtime viewer, first-time chatter. Well, thank you for that, Lisa. Well, we got Sharon wrong. At least I did. I am very interested to see where they go with her. Can't tell if she's good or bad. Absolutely loving JLD. What's JLD again? I don't know what JLD is. Anyway, the Sharon thing, listen, we've talked about it, right? Betrayals make supervillains. Right, we've talked about that for a couple of weeks, about the number one reason why I thought, out of all the bad theories, Sharon Carter as the power broker was the least of the bad theories, because betrayal makes supervillains. Betrayal makes supervillains. And they had her suffer a great betrayal. She feels very personally wronged. She gave her life in service, and she got screwed. So she's like, to hell with y'all. I'm doing things my way. Sets up her own little empire. And by the way, she's the niece of Peggy Carter. She learned from the best. Right? She worked directly for Nick Fury for a long time. She learned from Peggy Carter and Nick Fury. She learned from the best. And now she's going to use it for her own purposes. And I, for one, am very, very excited. I'm very excited to see where they go with that. All right, next up. We've got Evelyn writes, the acting of Stan and Mackie was gold in this show. It really was. The reason this show worked, honestly, as well as it did, besides fantastic writing, was all three of them, Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan, and Wyatt Russell. Terrific performances by all of them. It was really, really well performed. All right, Epic Dub Time writes, needless to say, Steve is over the moon about. I'm telling you, Steve is actually on the moon. I am telling you, Steve, it's gonna turn out that Steve is indeed actually on the moon. They're gonna say he's on the moon. All the little jokes, it's gonna actually end up with being that Steve actually went to a base on the moon. I don't know why. I have no idea what their motivation for that is or what purpose Steve would have on the moon, but I am telling you at some point we're going to find out that old man Steve is on the moon. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, next up. Isaiah Jones writes, that was a great episode. It indeed was, my friend. I love Falcon's Wakandan suit. I do too. I got to say, I thought it looked awesome. Those wings and fight scenes were top notch. Wyatt Russell stole my heart again, but Sam can give a speech. He's definitely my Captain America. Hey, again, listen. I adore the fact, and I have appreciated, if you guys have watched all of our spoiler discussions, you guys know every little time they resist the temptation to turn Sam into Steve, I've appreciated it very much. And they did a great job, even though I didn't want anybody. I don't want Captain America to be a mantle that's handed from character to character. But, if you're going to do that, they did it as well as it can be done. And they did it again by resisting the temptation to turn Sam into Steve. They let Sam become the next Captain America, being Sam. Not taking away his wings, not giving him a super soldier serum. They just took Sam and let him be Sam, taking on the Captain America mantle. And again, listen, you're going to hear me probably repeat this a lot because to me, this is one of the most key things to the reason this worked. They made him Captain America without trying to make him Steve, still leaving Steve Rogers as a very unique presence in the MCU and letting Sam become his own very unique presence in the MCU. And I thought that's why it worked. But anyway, that's just me. Okay. Thanks for that, Isaiah. Next up, Evelyn writes, Season 1, Falcon and Winter Soldier. Season 2, Captain America and Winter Soldier. Season 3, Captain America and White Wolf. Season 4, Lethal Weapon. Wrong franchise. Yeah, we'll see where they go with that. But I honestly do think we are just going to get Captain America and White Wolf in the next one. Or Captain America Bucky. I think we're going to see Bucky really shed. I think him going to Yori was the last thing he needed to do to shed the Winter Soldier. At least that's what I think. So I don't know. We'll see what they do. All right. Lisa MP writes. Actually, where are we at? Yes, we're at Lisa MP who writes. And this will be the last question we take, guys, and then we're going to take a short little break. We've been going a little bit over an hour now. I'm going to get up and stretch my legs and refill my drink here in just a second. Lisa MP writes, also, when this show was originally announced, I had no plans to watch, but after the first trailer, I changed my mind, and I wasn't expecting them to get so real about race. As a black woman, I loved it. Listen, I thought, I said this before, let me say it again. As an Italian Canadian, growing up where I grew up and how I grew up in the particular community that I grew up, you can have a basic understanding of what my experience was, and you can appreciate what my experience was, but you'll never fully get what my experience was because my experience was unique to me. Unless you're an Italian Canadian growing up in the very heavily Italian city of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, you're not going to fully get it. You can basically understand it. You can get the gist and you can appreciate it, but you'll never fully get it because you didn't live my experience. When it comes to a lot of the stuff that Falcon and the Winter Soldier was talking about, particularly with Isaiah, Sam, the ideas of race, I think a lot of us like me, we can get it, and I appreciated it very, very much. But I'll never be able to 100% appreciate it because that wasn't my experience. Just like you'll never be able to 100% appreciate and understand what my growing up experience was because you're not Italian Canadian. At least most of you watching aren't. So I acknowledge that when I say I love the way they navigated that whole stuff. I thought they handled it head on without bludgeoning people, right? See, people seem to think there's only two ways to handle things: extremely subtly or overly bludgeoning the audience over the head with it. And I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier showed that it doesn't have to be either. They addressed a lot of these issues head on and directly, but they always did it from an ideology point of view. And I think it was a nice thing in the middle. Again, I can't 100% appreciate it because it's not my background, but as somebody who didn't have that background, I found myself just going, wow, this is the way they're dealing with this is awesome. And I thought it was very, very well done. All right, guys, listen, we are now going to take a short break. I'm just going to stretch my legs. It's important that I stretch my legs, I've been finding out, for sitting over an hour or more. I'm going to refill my drink. I'm going to give you guys a chance to run, use the bathroom, grab something to eat, talk amongst yourselves, but don't go anywhere, guys. Give me 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll be right back, continuing our discussion on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the finale. We'll be right back. Okay, everybody, and we are back. Thank you for your patience and indulgence. I took a little bit of a break there, refilled my drink. Now we're ready to go. We got about 45 minutes left here because, again, at 4 o'clock, I have to go see, I got my tickets, going to a dine-in theater to see Mortal Kombat. Very excited about that. Anyway, guys, let's keep on rolling for now, though. We're going to get things picked up here with Ant Banks, 1984, who writes, "We built this country, bled for it. I'm not going to let anyone tell me I can't fight for it. As an African-American like myself, that statement hit home. Check your history books. Sam wasn't lying." No, I thought that was a great line at the end. I especially love, there's nobody's going to tell me. It was very reminiscent of another movie, but still, there's nobody's going to tell me that I can't fight for it. Right? And you know what I loved about that line was that he was saying it to Isaiah. Right? And he was kindly, I felt, also telling Isaiah, that includes you. I'm not letting anybody, including you, tell me I can't fight for it. Because, you know, Isaiah, with his tragic background, developed a very, jaded outlook on things. Of course he did. Any of us would have. And Sam, I felt like not only was he talking about everybody else isn't going to tell me I can't fight for it. Isaiah, nobody, including you, are going to tell me I can't fight for it. And I thought that was great. And I think that kind of speaks to who Sam is as well. And it really gave more meaning to Isaiah being so proud of Sam. And I don't know, it was just a really, really beautiful moment that I enjoyed a great deal. All right, next up. Brandon Blake writes, this show might be my favorite comic thing since season 2 of Daredevil. I want season 2. Love what they did with Walker. Love that crazy character. Yeah, I got to say too, I have loved, even when I hated him, I have loved this character. Walmart Captain America added so much to this show. He was an incredible addition to the show. It gave more layers to it. Nothing is black and white. I just thought it was a really, really good use of the show. And again, it worked because Wyatt Russell, this show is going to make Wyatt Russell a star. Overlord didn't. Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to make Wyatt Russell a star. You mark my words. All right. Next up, JMeister25 writes, show was awesome. I agree. We didn't see how the blip affected Madripoor, but maybe we'll get that in Shang-Chi. Also, Sam's speech was beautiful and much needed. No, listen, again, there are a lot of movies that have that thing where the hero, whether it's a comic book movie or another kind of movie, the hero makes this big speech at the end and makes the world hold hands and sing Kumbaya. We've seen it 1,000 times. And it could have very easily gone south. But the speech was so built on everything that had happened in the show, right? You go back over that speech Sam gives, every single line, you can connect directly to a certain event that happened in the show up until that point. Every point of view, every bit of philosophical opinion, every ideology, everything that he espouses in that last big speech can at some point be drawn to a conversation or an event that had happened previously in the show. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so impressed with the writing of this series. It was just so tied in so well. And the narrative was the driving factor behind everything. And I really, really like the way they did that. All right, that was just me. Thanks, Jay Meister. Appreciate that, man. Next up, Joe Byram writes, so, we're supposed to feel sad that Carly died. It sure seemed like they were trying to make us feel sympathetic. She was a cold-blooded murderer and wanted to kill more if they didn't follow her. Well, see, no, listen, Joe, I think that is as the Flash would say, an oversimplification. That's an oversimplification. I think the reason why Sam felt empathy for her is exactly what he was saying at the end. Why did she become this? What made her this? Like, all we want to talk about, Sam says, is, sorry, I had a drop go down the wrong pipe. Anyway, all we want to talk about is what they were doing, and we don't want to ask the question why. You see, we feel empathy for Carly without agreeing with Carly. Did Carly need to be stopped? Absolutely, she needed to be stopped. If nothing else, in this episode alone, we saw how far she's gone. Hey, if we need to, we kill the hostages. Like, that's not something Carly, that character, would have said 4 years ago. And whether it's the super soldier serum that did it, because we know that the super soldier serum can do a lot to somebody, or whether it was something else, now she's at that point. There's no doubt she had to be stopped. But the empathy is there because of the injustice that was being done to her and to a lot of other people, and she took up a cause that Sam understood. Sam empathized with her cause. Remember, we were talking about Sharon. Sharon becomes a villain out of betrayal. It's the same story with Carly. Carly and a lot of other people in this post-blip MCU world have suffered great betrayal. Being displaced out of their homes, having their lives taken away from them, being told where they can and cannot be, being put into camps that didn't have adequate medical supplies or adequate food or adequate shelter or whatever. And this had been going on for years. Sam empathized with her because of what drove her to that. That didn't mean he accepted what she was. He knew what she was couldn't be, and that she had to stop, and if needed, had to be stopped. But Sam looks big picture. And he recognized that there was a great injustice done to her. And unless, see, this was the whole point of his speech to the senator. Unless we start addressing the why question, we're just going to get Carly 2.0 in a little while. If we don't wrestle with the tough work of asking, why did this happen? Why did a good kid like that become what she became? Why are so many people around the world willing to follow her into this? If we don't address the why, then all we're going to get is another Carly. And I think that was his point. So I think the point was Sam empathized with her, but still understanding she had to be stopped. He was just going to try to stop her one way. But yeah, I mean, Carly became a representation of the tragedy of the situation. In many ways, she was kind of like John Walker. Except John Walker, when he had his come to Jesus moment, his was, let Carly go, save these people. Carly's come to Jesus moment was, we can either split and call this off, or we can kill the hostages if we have to. She chose, let's kill the hostages if we have to. She had to be stopped. But that doesn't take away the difficult question that Sam wrestled with of why did she become what she was in the first place? Because if we don't address that, there's going to be a lot more Carlys, and that's going to be worse. So anyway, I think, like I said, Joe, I think there's an element of truth to what you're saying, but again, in the words of the Ezra Miller Flash, that's an oversimplification. You got to look bigger picture, just like Sam did in that. Anyway, that's just me. All right, Suthius writes, Carly, I didn't mean to kill your friend. I don't want to hurt people that don't matter. Me. Oh, I know you didn't just say that to him. I know. I thought, oh, lady, you started the conversation right. I didn't mean to kill your friend. I'm sorry. Would have been a better follow-up line, right? It's like good first line. Good first line. Look, I didn't mean to kill your friend. Second line should have been, I'm sorry. Instead it was, I don't want to hurt anybody who doesn't matter. It's like, oh, okay, good luck. You just pissed off maybe other than Steve Rogers and maybe other than Bucky. You just pissed off the most combat trained super soldier there is on the planet. So good luck, lady, because you just said totally the wrong thing to that guy. I mean, it was, and again, see, Sam wouldn't have said that. Sam is a much better communicator. She said dead ass the wrong thing. And you're right. When she said that, it's like the first time in this series that you were like, oh yeah, John Walker, you go get her. Or whoever. Like, when else in this series have we cheered for John Walker, right? In that moment, we were like, oh yeah, F this. You go get her. You totally go get her. Anyway, let's move on here. Next up, we've got Dragon 10 writes, I love the way Sam combined the wings and the shield during the fights. Yeah, it was excellent. It looked fantastic. I'm way more comfortable with him being Captain America than I thought I would be. Again, to me, it was because philosophically, they made the case about why Sam would take on that mantle. The whole show was about laying the groundwork about philosophically why Sam would take on the mantle. And then they did all the narrative work to be very clear that he was not becoming Steve Rogers. He was just taking on that mantle as Sam Wilson. And because of that, even though I didn't want anybody else to be called Captain America, I can go, you know what? That's not what I wanted them to do. But they laid great foundation for why they're doing what they're doing, and they made it work. They made it work, and they made it enjoyable. All right. Next up, we've got, where are we at here? We're at Suthius writes, Batroc, I wonder how much I can get for your bird costume. Sam, maybe a baguette and a few french fries. Me. Sam, that's racist. LOL. I laughed so hard. Sam being cheeky with his comebacks and having fun. You know, I didn't think about that, but you are probably right. I think if there were some French people watching that probably would be considered offensive. Actually, now that you bring it up, because I just laughed my ass off when Sam said that, but yeah, that could have been considered a little bit racist. I didn't think of that. I will give you that. But again, I love the fact that this show didn't go, okay, Sam couldn't take Batroc before, but now Sam's calling himself Captain America, so he'll be able to dispatch of Batroc, and he couldn't. He couldn't. The best he could do was get in my shot and then use that opening to get out of here so I can go save that helicopter, right? And I love that even the super soldiers didn't want to mess with Batroc. I loved that. I loved even the super soldiers were like, oh, damn, it's Batroc. And the only way that Batroc could be taken out is when Sharon unexpectedly turns the gun on him and puts a couple of bullets into him. I liked that a lot. I thought that was great. Batroc, you cost me a lot of money. That's not a very good George St. Pierre impersonation. I apologize for that. Anyway, next up. Suthius writes, John's wife is very oddly supportive of him 100%. Hey, man, that's what your partner in life is, man. Your partner, if you got the right partner, they're always supportive of you. They'll call you on your shit, but they'll be supportive of you anyway. So, yes, I think that's great. I am actually really looking forward to seeing more of that dynamic. I'm looking forward to seeing more of that dynamic between Walker and his wife. Anyway, Chris Cutter writes, when Val said things are about to get weird, was that referencing to something outside of the Falcon and Winter Soldier series? Seemed like it. Could be. It almost sounds like her and whoever else she's working with are getting ready to make some moves. Things are about to get weird. So I don't know. Obviously, there's something on the horizon. Obviously, there's something. They didn't just throw that line in there just to be a quippy line for Elaine to say. There's obviously meaning behind it. We may not actually get that meaning for, maybe a year or two. It might be a couple of years before we find out what the meaning of it was. But I think you're right. I think there was meaning to it. And there's going to be a role for the U.S. agent to play. All right. And probably a larger storyline as well. All right. Ismail Montoya writes, it was Sharon Carter all along. It was a great show. Just felt everything so rushed at the end. Your thoughts? Well, I didn't feel like they rushed things at the end. I just felt like the whole show was a little rushed. Again, it's just 6 episodes, nothing really being given time to marinate or to soak. It was just, overall, I thought it was very well done. I didn't think the last episode was, listen, the final episode was as rushed as all the other episodes were. Again, the only time I really felt like there were 2 moments. This is what I'll say. I think there were 2 moments in the entire series that were truly allowed to marinate and breathe. You know what? I take it back. I'll say 3. 3 moments in the whole series that were really given time to properly breathe and allow us just to soak in things and really, soak it all up. One was the boat montage. The boat montage, I think, was fabulous. They let it breathe. They let it, flex. It was great. Next was when John Walker went to go visit Battlestar's family. I thought that was it didn't have to be a super long scene. It wasn't a big, super long scene, but that scene to me felt like it took its time. It breathed. It was exactly as long as it needed to be. And I felt like the show stopped to allow us to soak in that scene. And I thought that was great. The third one was when Isaiah was telling his story to Sam. That was another time when we went from, okay, the show's moving, the show's got to move. The show went, wait a minute, let's put the brakes on. Let's just sit here for a while. Not a super long time, but let's just sit and marinate in this scene and what's happening here. Let's let this breathe and let all the richness of the narrative of what's being told here soak into the audience. And I think that this series could have used more of that. I thought WandaVision could have used more of that. But so to me, the ending didn't feel any more rushed than the entire rest of the series did. So like my big criticism right now of both WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier was that everything is happening too frantically, too quickly. It just needs a little bit more. It still works. It still works, but I thought it would be even more rich if more stuff was given that time to breathe. But anyway, that's just me. All right, next up. Suthius writes, of course, Sharon was hungry for that pardon. The U.S. is pretty much a buffet for information and weapons and wealth. Oh my, Sharon has gone full heel. It looks like it. Listen, I think even before they revealed that she's the power broker, I'm like, Okay. When she melted that guy in the truck, I'm like, yep. She ain't playing by the rules anymore. That's the first moment that I thought, oh yeah, power broker. By the time she did the reveal with Carly, I wasn't surprised anymore, because it's, to me, the moment that I went, okay, yeah, this is what there is, when she melted the guy. That's not something that Steve would appreciate. That's not something Steve would have approved of, my friends. All right, next up. Chris Cutter writes, still think Sharon is some kind of double or triple agent trying to get back in to take down a bigger threat. Not sure they destroy the Carter name. Listen, this is the thing. Characters do what characters are going to do. That's what makes good stories. It's not about, let's not let Sharon ruin the Carter name. No, let's tell a rich story. Let's tell a story about a good woman who had served her country, who felt completely betrayed because she did the right thing. And now, being completely human, she's angry and she's bitter. And she's like, well, if this is what I get for doing things the right way and for being the hero, then maybe it's time I do something else, if that's what I'm going to get in return. And it's the classic supervillain origin story. So when she melted that dude, when she just straight up, because she could have popped sleeping gas in that truck, right? Wouldn't it have been easier to come across like sleeping gas than like gaseous mercury and whatever else was put in there to like melt the guy's face off like he was a Nazi at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark? I think they did go, she's villain. I think they've gone straight up. I don't think she's a double agent or a triple. I think she's straight up a villain now. Doesn't mean she can't be redeemed at some point, but I think they made it pretty clear she's a villain now. Could be wrong. All right, next up. Darth Grant writes, the stars and stripes are a bit much. I hope in the future they mute the colors some like they did with Evans's costume. And I'm sure they will. Like, for me, I thought it was a very big, bold, visually a big, bold statement, right? Because in this episode, Sam was announcing, I am Captain America. And so the uniform itself became a big, brash, bold statement. Now remember, in every episode, in every movie, the costumes always change bit by bit, right? Cap's costume changed movie to movie. Iron Man's costume changed movie to movie. Even Thor's costume changes a bit movie to movie. So I have no doubt the next time we see Sam, the costume will probably be a little bit different. I think the next time we see Sam, the costume will probably be a bit different. All right, next up. Cam K writes, I rarely, if ever, rate things as a 10 out of 10, but man, did this episode hit me at an 11 out of 10. Stuck the landing, was powerful, and as of right now, the Cap is my favorite current hero out of the entire MCU. For me, it's still Thor. Thor to me is still the best hero in the MCU. But again, I fully appreciated that again, this has become a theme here today, but they made Sam Captain America without trying to make Sam Steve Rogers. Very key, very important. So much depth and meaning. I mean, I really like Sam. One of the things this series has done, I've always liked Sam, but now I really love this character. And the fact that they made this character stick to who and what he is, I think was great. And they didn't feel the need to show that he is the mightiest warrior. I love the fact that, I think there are going to be some people that cast heat because it's like, oh, well, he couldn't take Batroc. Hey man, Steve Rogers, Batroc gave Steve Rogers a bit of a run for his money. And Steve Rogers is the Captain America. He has the super soldier serum. He's the one guy who had Erskine's true super soldier serum. No one else has ever had Erskine's true super soldier serum. He did. Right? And Batroc gave him a run for his money. So this idea, I like the fact that there's something about heroes with limitations that I really appreciate more because it takes more heroism. Right? Like when Luke Cage walks into a room full of thugs who are going to shoot guns at him. Is that really a lot of heroism? He knows the bullets can't hurt him. Sam, without super soldier serum, he ain't bulletproof, although, you know, his Iron Man outfit kind of makes him bulletproof in some ways. But every time he goes into a fight, he could lose. And he goes into the fight anyway. In trying to reach Carly, he knows he could end up getting himself killed. But he's going to do what he feels is the big picture best thing to do. And I've grown to appreciate this character very, very much. And Bucky. Man, I appreciate Bucky even more than I did before. Even more than I did before. All right, next up. Let's keep going here. We've got Timothy Platt who writes, when Walker made the conscious decision to try and save the people over killing Carly, as someone who has been defending him as a good guy for the entire show, I only had one thought: vindication. Yeah, listen, one of the things, this is, John Walker himself becomes a great analogy and perfect representation about the whole philosophy of the show in general. There's nothing black and white. Everything has multiple layers to them. And one of the reasons I have loved this character, even when I'm hating the character, I love the character, is because they've always shown him as a guy. He's no villain. He's damaged. He's got issues. He can't handle the super soldier serum like Steve could. And he got hurt. He got rejected. And then he suffered probably the ultimate loss to him in losing Lamar. And in the heat of that, having just watched his best friend murdered, he killed one of the people responsible. Now, of course, he crossed a line there. He completely crossed a line. And there was an accounting for that. But, I mean, I really love the fact that they put him in that spot again. That's why I've been saying up until the finale, saying I believe he is going to have a heroic death in this thing. Now, he didn't die. He didn't die. But I thought he would ultimately die helping Sam and Bucky to do something heroic. And he did, but he lived. He did, but he lived. So I thought that was a really interesting move on their part. Okay, next up. That was Timothy. Next up, Darth Grant. Are we at Darth Grant? Yes, we are now at Darth Grant, who writes, one of two. I agree with Timothy Platt on Walker. I was hoping they show him live up to Lamar's vision of him and do the right thing in the heat of battle. To be honest, I don't have the stomach to see him lose his way again. I think he will lose his way again. I know that trope can lead to good stories, but I dislike seeing good people go bad. But here's this thing. It goes back to what we were saying a little bit earlier, right? Unlike Bucky, who this show ends with Bucky addressing his issues. Recognizing his issues, doing the work to address his issues. Falcon and the Winter Soldier doesn't end with Walker addressing his core issues. And so the issues that we saw pop up for him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I believe they're going to come back up again because he hasn't dealt with it. He hasn't dealt with whatever, damage he still carries around from years of being a soldier. We haven't seen him deal with the issues that he carries around as an individual. We haven't seen him deal with that stuff. He's just, he made the right decision. He is a good person. But because he hasn't dealt with those issues, we're going to see these issues pop up again when he's U.S. agent. I think 100% we're going to see these things pop up again because they never dealt with his core problems the way Bucky is dealing with his core problems. That's just a guess. I mean, I'm just guessing, but we'll see where they go from there. All right. Chris Cutter writes, would have loved a post-credit scene of old man Steve, me too, man, me too, in a base on the moon, reacting to Sam's speech to the GRC. Anything. I mean, the one thing I was really what I was hoping to see was to see Isaiah get a place in the Captain America Museum and then walk up behind him, Steve Rogers. Old man Steve. That, to me, that just would have been life. We didn't get it. We knew it was most likely that we weren't going to get it. I thought there was like a 1 in 4 chance. I thought maybe a 25% chance that we could get it, but we didn't, but that would have been great. All right, next up. Darth Grant writes, LOL, I just saw somebody say that giving good speeches is a requirement on the application for Captain America. It's non-negotiable. And yeah, listen, Steve Rogers could also give good speeches. I mean, Steve Rogers, his ultimate power was his moral compass, right? I mean, really, when you boil it all down, Steve's main thing was his moral compass. His moral compass is what always drew people to him. It's also why in the comic books, like even like borderline demigods will follow Steve Rogers. Sam, his thing isn't his moral compass, although he has a good moral compass. It's his ability to communicate and to break down a situation, whether it's helping individuals or larger scale situations, and they leaned into that, and I thought that was great. All right, next up. Where are we? Okay, Dragon 10 writes, forgot to say looking forward to your Loki shows. I'm looking forward to the Loki show too, man. I cannot wait, because you know how much I love Loki. I love Loki, so I can't wait to get started on that. We got a long wait, though. We got to wait till June. But it's coming. All right, next up. Cam K writes, 1 of 3. I want to get this out. John, you're a bit off on the timelines, and you can easily fact check yourself. That being said, well, what timelines? What are we talking about? That being said, this show started 6 months after Endgame. Actually, it started 3 to 4 months after Endgame. They say that explicitly in the show. Far From Home started 8 months after Endgame. Yes. In Falcon and Winter Soldier, with traveling around the world, finding a boat, and Sam needing time to train, it could have easily been 2 months. But now you're interpreting. You're speculating. It never actually says how much time has passed. Keep that in mind. It could have been easily 2 months. The beginning of the show, by the time the finale hit, which would put them in New York right during the time of Far From Home. Anyway, love the show. Again, Cam, you're speculating. You're interpolating. You're making a guess. Right? You're making a guess. So, no, that basically the way I believe the implied message of the show has been, the events of WandaVision happen first, the events of Falcon and the Winter Soldier happen next, and then the events of Far From Home happen after that. However much time buffers that, or if there is like a little piece of overlap here and there, that's up for debate and interpretation. But it seems like the show laid out that WandaVision events happen first, Falcon and the Winter Soldier events happen next, Spider-Man Far From Home happen after that. Yes, we can have discussions. We can have good discussions about they could have been this, and maybe that meant this. We can get into those discussions, but then we're just getting down to our interpretations. And if you're just introducing your own interpretation, that's not a fact check. That's just you introducing a speculation and a hypothesis. So for me, the implied message of the shows is the events happen in this order: WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Far From Home. And maybe at some point the MCU will tell us there was some overlap. If so, great. But until then, it's only speculation. But that's where I'm at for now. But you could very well be right, Cam. We'll find out. All right, next up. Darth Grant writes, I'm curious though, John, if Marvel decides to rename the Falcon and Winter Soldier to Captain America and the Winter Soldier, though it would be a sequel, it wouldn't be considered a season 2 for Emmy because of title. No, you can change the title. You can alter a title and still say this is the same show. So yes, they can do that. Next up, Lisa MP writes, now that Marvel has done 2 shows, in the future, I hope they stop holding back and go for it. Both WandaVision and this show fell short of that extra mind-blowing kick it really needed to be great shows. I appreciate your perspective on that, Lisa, but I disagree. I think both of these shows exceeded. I know for me personally, they both well exceeded my expectations. They're TV shows, for heaven's sakes. I don't expect them to have the same impact of a full legitimate feature film like Thor Ragnarok or Endgame or whatever. These 2 shows to me have exceeded in almost every way imaginable. Now, granted, my expectations weren't the highest. So for me saying that these shows exceeded my expectations may not have the same impact as depending on what your expectations were. And, you know, they're pieces of art, Lisa. So we're all going to have, they're going to hit us in different ways. For you, how did you put it? For you, it fell short of that extra mind-blowing kick that it really needed to be great shows. And I respect that. That was your experience with it. I just got to say I had a different experience with it. To me, both of these things did such great jobs with narrative and story and characters that they had more than enough of a kick to be exceedingly great shows. Like I thought both of these shows have been great. Falcon and Winter Soldier didn't start off there with me. It started off little touch and go with the first 3 episodes. Like I liked the first 3 episodes, didn't think they were great. But once episode 4 kicked in, it just really elevated. Like neither of these shows to me are 10 out of 10 shows, but I think they were great. I really did. But hey, they didn't work for you on that same level like they worked for me. And that's totally fine because that's the subjectivity of art. And thanks for sharing your experience with that, Lisa. I appreciate that. All right. Andrew Brown writes, so, without the super soldier serum, Sam can hold the weight of an armored van up with his arms. Must have been magic push-ups he was doing last week. Well, remember, it wasn't his arms that was holding up. Remember, he's got a vibranium suit. And it wasn't he wasn't like pressing the truck, right? It was the scene made it very clear it was the jets and the rockets doing all the work. And probably the suit holding the structural integrity of it all together. But yes, it's like, don't magically start pretending like Sam has super strength. They didn't. They made it pretty clear. Like even then when he was holding it, he had to have the extra little rockets attach themselves to the Jeep and give it that extra thrust, right? It was the rockets doing all the work. But I had that first initial thought too, Andrew. I had that first initial thought too. All right. Mr. Hank Dunn writes, when Sharon was getting her pardon, the dude sounded exactly like President Biden. And I thought, what the fuck? Did they get the actual president to cameo? I mean, it was a very good speech because yes, like you and I now know that she's the power broker. But if they hadn't had revealed her as the power broker, that would have been the perfect ending of Falcon and the Winter Soldier for Sharon's character. Her redemption, her getting what was coming to her properly, her being restored, everything, her getting the honor she was due. But you and I know better. You and I now know she's the power broker. And this was all a part of her scam. And now she's going to have access to technology and tech that she's going to sell on the black market, and which ties right into what we've been hearing is going to be the synopsis for Iron Wars. So we know a little bit better, but otherwise it would have been like the perfect stereotypical ending for that character. All right. Next up, Dino Vader. Is that where we're at? Yes. Dino Vader writes, good finale, but I don't love the Sharon storyline, and the last words of Carly are just ridiculous and incomprehensible. Okay. I disagree. I don't know what else to say other than I disagree. I don't think her last words were ridiculous or incomprehensible at all. I thought they were actually really in line with her character. But you felt differently, Vader, and I'm glad that you're contributing your point of view on that to the overall discussion, because I'm sure you're not alone. There are probably many others that felt the same way too. All right, thanks for sharing that, Dino. All right, Cam K writes, there's no way the show was saying same, you probably mean Sam. Sam could lift that car. My guess is either just the suit helped him or the car was just stuck and slowly coming down. Again, it was the rockets that was doing all the work. Like you go back to it. It was the rockets that was holding it up. It was the suit that was holding it up, not Sam. Sam cannot hold up a truck. All right. Han Soul O writes and says in like a $20 super chat. Thank you for that, Han. All right, son. As a black man who has had an uncle in Korea who came back with all types of PTSD, couldn't take advantage of VA loans, gave me the talk about joining the military. The part with Isaiah hit a spot. Good job, Marvel/Disney. Yeah, man. I'm telling you. I so appreciated everything from how to deal with pain, everything from the character journeys. And then when they were actually addressing those types of issues, which was, again, an evolution for Marvel. This is an evolution of the MCU, of always going into new territory. This is definitely ground that comic book fare has not really treaded. Comic book on the big screen fare has not really treaded before. At least not like this. And I love the fact that they're expanding out and starting to introduce stuff like this in and communicating what real people's experiences would have been like. And I just thought they handled it in a really good way. Now, anyways, thanks for sharing that, Han. Appreciate that, man. All right, next up. Ryan Holman writes, the new Cap suit is okay, not my favorite look. I wish that they had not had shown it primarily in red lights and night sky, cheapened the experience. I don't know, man. Like, all I can say is I disagree. To me, it was a bold, brash visual statement because I don't know visually how his suit anymore could have screamed, I'm the new Captain America, than the way that suit looked. Again, I have my criticisms of it. It's yet again Marvel making another character into an Iron Man, but whatever. I thought it looked awesome. I thought the way Sam knows how to navigate it. I mean, maybe he knew how to use it a little too well, a little too quickly, but be that as it may, I thought the suit looked great. I thought it made its statement, but hey, man, it's a suit. It's not going to hit everybody the same way. Obviously, it didn't work for you quite as well as it worked for me, but I thought it looked pretty damn awesome. I thought personally it looked pretty damn awesome. Okay. Just got a few minutes left here, guys. Rylan Holman writes, I was glad to see Walker do the right thing, but when he became U.S. agent, his attitude made me think he didn't actually grow as a character. Again, going on also, wish we had seen Yori's reaction. I'm glad we didn't. Feel like I'm complaining about this episode, but I really did enjoy it. So yes, but I think that's an important thing. See, I don't think that what you're saying, I think is exactly right. We didn't see Walker grow as a character. We saw Walker, see, his decision to save those people wasn't an evolution in his character. That was him just doing really what his character would do. And I thought that was great. But I think, Rylan, what you're pointing out is key. We did not see him actually address any of his issues. And that is going to be the reason why he becomes U.S. agent. And what we're going to see, where he's going to fall back into the same pitfalls and into the same traps that he did trying to be Captain America. Because those issues haven't been fixed. And he hasn't addressed them. And I think that's important moving forward because it's going to help us understand what's going to happen with U.S. Agent moving forward. And with Yori, again, I think it would have been the easy Disney thing to do to have Yori go, oh, thank you so much for telling me the truth. Now I can sleep at night. And now I have closure over the death of my son. Oh, big hug. Yeah, they could have easily done that paint by numbers Disney kind of happy ending. But they didn't. And I, for one, thought it was better to not show it. I thought the important thing was for us to see Bucky. I mentioned this yesterday. I thought the important part of this was just seeing Bucky doing what he needed to do. And I know not everybody agreed with me when I said that yesterday, because somebody wrote in and say, John, don't expect too much out of this Bucky Yori thing. It may not be like a super long thing. And I said, I don't need it to be long. I can be 5 to 10 seconds. That's fine. The important thing here is just that we see Bucky take that next step in his evolving as a character and taking that step that he couldn't do at the beginning of the show, which was come clean to Yori. He couldn't do it before. And now he's at a place where he can. And that to me was the important thing. And then I didn't want them to do the Disney ending where Yori says, I forgive you, Bucky. Big hug. Bring it in, big fella. I didn't want them to do that. And so they left that part out because what Yori's reaction was isn't the important thing to the story. At the end of the day, Yori's reaction isn't the point. Yori's reaction isn't even important. Not to the story. The important thing to the story was that Bucky grew as a character and was able to do something now at the end of the series that he wasn't able to do at the beginning. And that was the important thing. And that's what they focused on. And that's why I like the way they handled that. But that's just me personally. That's just me. All right. Next up, Rylan also writes, meant wish. Oh, I got that, Rylan. Don't worry. I feel like the Loki show will be a mix between this and WandaVision as far as outlandish meets grounded. I don't know, man. I'm feeling like Loki, especially after watching that latest trailer, I'm feeling like Loki is just going to be all sorts of batshit crazy. I got a feeling Loki is just going to be whole heaps of batshit crazy, and I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it. I cannot wait to see what they do with this thing, because listen, WandaVision was very different than Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I got a feeling Loki is going to be very different from both of them too. So, I mean, I don't know, but we'll see, but I cannot wait for Loki to get started. All right, next up. Chronophobia writes, and tips in like a $20 super chat. Thank you for that, Chronophobia. Writes in 1 of 3. After this episode, I don't buy into the theory that only Steve Rogers can handle the serum. Bucky, Walker, and even 4 Flag Smashers that the Butler blew up, all of them showed the capacity to make their own choices. Not really. 2 of 3. Walker chose to rescue the hostages instead of go after Carly. Yes, after he already murdered somebody in cold blood in the street. Let's not overlook that part. And killing the man in episode 4 was a realistic choice, given that his friend had been killed in front of him. He likely would have made that call regardless of the serum. I'm not so sure about that. Bucky has issues not because of the serum, but because of his actions under Hydra. The serum doesn't hijack your brain and turn you into a psycho. The people with serum in them would make those choices regardless, in my opinion. I disagree. I do not believe that is what the show communicated. And listen, you can say, listen, the other Flag Smashers, guess what? Just like I contend, Carly probably wouldn't have killed hostages a couple of years earlier. Well, guess what? My belief is that those other Flag Smashers would never have agreed to kill hostages a couple of years earlier. Did they hesitate when Carly said, we'll kill the hostages? Sure, they hesitated. They may not have felt good about it, but at the end of the day, they were like, okay, let's do it. And I bet years earlier, that's not something these people would have done. I don't think Carly, these people were started off as savage murderers and just all got together and said, let's just go around and murder people. It's something they evolved into. And I completely believe that the super soldier serum, I think the message of the MCU has been the super soldier serum is something in there. And listen, what the effects of it, what the negative effects of it on Isaiah may have been, they just never revealed to us. But I think we clearly see the super soldier serum as something that Walker couldn't handle. And I think that's going to play itself out even more moving forward. So anyway, and I think the very fact that Sam chose not to take it in the first place was kind of an acknowledgement as well, is that this can do something to you. And it's not something that we should do. So I don't know. So I disagree. I'm not saying you're not making some valid points. You are. And I'm not saying that there isn't a possibility here that you're completely correct and I'm completely incorrect. A part of this is definitely interpretation. But again, that's just what I believe the implied message of the thing was, is that the serum is bad news. The serum ultimately at the end of the day is bad news. I mean, Zemo obviously completely believed that as well. Zemo believed that like these people running around is just dangerous because it's going to do certain things to them. It's why Zemo himself decided not to take it, because he understands the underlying problem with that. But anyway, that's just kind of my interpretation of that. But we'll see moving forward in the MCU here, Chronophobia, which by the way is one of the coolest names out there. Fear of Time. I love that. We may find out moving forward in the MCU that you're completely right. I don't see it that way right now. But, we always change our opinions when new information gets given to us, and let's see what kind of information the MCU gives us moving forward. And I'm sure since we're not done now with US Agent, he's still running around out there. I'm sure we'll probably get more insight into that as we move forward with that character too. And so maybe you're right. I don't think so, but you might be. So let's see where this goes. All right. Next up, Timothy Platt writes, if we do see these characters in a follow-up series, it'll be Captain America and the Winter Soldier. So Falcon and the Winter Soldier being a one-off is true from a certain point of view. From a certain point of view, yes, but you can alter the title of a show and yet it still be considered the same show. And by the way, I don't think it'll be Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I think it'll be Captain America and White Wolf, but that's my guess. All right, Cam K writes, Sam's a mix in between Iron Man with his goggles, Cap with his shield, Black Panther with his suit, and OG Falcon with his wings. How is that not awesome? Oh, I think it is awesome. I think it is awesome. Again, I just don't like the Iron Manization of MCU characters. You have to give him his own Jarvis now. He's got to have like the total bulletproof thing with whatever, fine. At the end of the day, the suit was amazing and it looked great. Sam used it to great effect, and yet they didn't say it made him unbeatable. They didn't say it made him suddenly immortal. I really appreciated that a lot. So yeah, overall for me, listen, I have my criticisms of the suit because of the Iron Manization of the whole thing, but that's a criticism. The bottom line is I thought the suit was awesome. I do. I think the suit is awesome. So it is what it is. All right. Evelyn writes, I just have time for like one or two more here, guys. Evelyn writes, I like the respect people show to Bucky, cops calling him Sergeant Barnes, thanks from the people he saves, the kids playing with him, nice full circle. I agree. Because at the end of the day, people know he was one of the guys who fought at the battle of the portals. They know he's one of the guys who helped save the world. And I really do like the respect that he gets. That average cops on the street recognize him, even if a bar full of villains in Madripoor don't recognize Sam. So there's that. All right. Mario Man 94 writes, the scene with Sam and Isaiah in the museum made me tear up. It was so beautifully done. Great to see Isaiah get the proper recognition. Completely agree with that. Completely agree. And guys, you know what? One last one. Random person who writes, Wild Theory. I know this won't happen, but would be balls crazy if the real Sharon died in Madripoor and Mystique took her place to infiltrate authority. I mean, that's possible, but then it would lack the drama of the betrayal leading to it. And that's where the richness of it is. So yes, that would be crazy, but no, I don't think they're introducing elements of X-Men yet in this thing here. So I don't think that's the case. Plus, again, it would undermine that richness of the betrayal causing the turn. And that's, to me, is what makes this really work a lot. But hey, that's just me. Okay, guys, listen. There are still a bunch of questions. We got actually well more than halfway through this. Yay. Okay. But at any rate, we still have more to go. I will do part 2 of this open spoiler discussion and get through the rest of all the remaining questions that got sent in. We will do that this weekend, probably on Sunday. We will record and put up all the remaining answers to all the remaining questions and comments and theories that you guys wrote in. We will get to all those this weekend. Again, probably will be on Sunday. Tomorrow I got a lot going on, so it'll probably be Sunday that I do that. But anyway, guys, bottom line for me, this was another big win for the MCU shows. I still like WandaVision a little bit more than Falcon and Winter Soldier, but this thing ended so strong. I thought the finale was terrific. And hey, I'm in. And now we look forward to Loki, and Loki starts up here again soon. Hey guys, listen, thanks for hanging out here for a couple hours with me as we talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It has been a great ride. Thank you for being here for it. Special thanks to all of you guys who sent in your thoughts and your theories and your opinions. Loved hearing all of them. The ones that agreed with me, you're very smart people. And the ones who disagreed with me, you gave a much needed and very good other perspective than just my own on this. And probably you're right on that too. So anyway, guys, thank you for all that, because number one, you gave us great fun things to talk about. Number two, you supported this channel as we did. So thank you guys very, very much for that support. Okay, guys, that will do it for me for now. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.